Most people think that voice in the head is who they are. Anyone who works with me knows I talk about the parrot mind. It is the perpetrator of the inner disturbance, of the anxiety or the anger, whatever it is. And then it will come in with numb it, distract from it. It will come up with some solution, but the solution isn't the solution of your owl. It isn't a true solution. It's a temporary relief. You know, we're all searching for something in life, and the parrot will have you searching out in the world for things and experiences and new relationships and everything, which is all fine if it doesn't come from lack. But really what we want is that place of peace inside. From that peace is where all creativity comes from, all passion, all inspiration, all wisdom, and we haven't been trained to look there.
And I guess because, like you say, the parrot's a noisy twat.
Yeah.
You just listen to him, don't you? Because he's the loud voice in the room in your head.
Yeah, and he's been with you since you're about 2. And so he knows all of your Achilles heels, he knows all of your weaknesses, he knows how to reel you in, and then he'll blame you for it when you screw up. It's really easy to just run off that programming, but if it's getting in the way somehow, then because it's a program, it can be updated. That's really good news. You're not stuck with it.
And that's obviously the hard work, though, isn't it? That people don't tend to want to do.
Yeah, because you've got to get out of a normal pattern, and you've got to look at it and be really objective about it, and then make the steps to change it.
So, Nicky.
Yeah.
We just said a minute ago. It's only Nicola if you're getting told off. But no, Nicky, Drew, thank you very much for coming on the podcast today.
You're very welcome.
I'm actually really excited about today, and I know you are deep down. But no, Nicky, I want to talk first, just because I want to talk over her first of all before she goes on. But Nicky's my therapist. She's working with me now. You probably know I'm rubbish with dates. A good few months, yeah. And we've been working on quite a few things. You know, it started with the ADHD stuff. It's moved on, quite a lot, hasn't it, now? And we're, I guess, cruising through at the moment as opposed to really digging into things. But yeah, no, I'm really excited to get you on simply because of who you are to me, and you've done a lot of good for me recently, which I appreciate a lot.
Thank you.
But I wouldn't want to ruin your status and say who you are without you saying it. So tell the listeners who you are and why you, just a very short version of why you do what you do. We'll go into more depth after.
Yeah. So like you said, I'm a psychotherapist. I'm a coach, business and personal coach. I would say I'm multi-passionate, so it sounds weird when I say some of the things I do, but I'm a trauma therapist specialist as well, so dealing with a lot of vets and people who've, seen some pretty terrible things in life. Yeah. But on the other side, I'm also an energy therapist. You might not know that about me.
Yeah, you've touched into it.
Touched into a little bit. And a spiritual guide. So helping people break through the programs and come back to their true nature, who they really are. So at a soul level. So, and I've written a few books, but I don't really call myself an author because I don't feel like a writer. I just happen to have written some books.
Well, you can't have books without being an author. So I think you've just been humble.
Yeah. So.
But you've just launched a new book, haven't you? So.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
So, no, thanks for telling us, and I will go straight into the present because I always forget, and then it ends up being later on in the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, as a ritual, we have a little thing where you bring a little gift in. It goes on the wall. You've probably seen now. You mentioned the pants earlier, so you've seen the wall.
That's great.
It's better than the first one was just a condom, and everyone's like, "Why is a condom on the wall?" It's like, you need to watch the podcast. But no, the wall's getting full now. So yeah, let's go.
Present. So the reason behind the present, and you know this, but anyone who works with me knows I talk about the parrot mind, and the 2 inner birds, so the owl, the wise owl, and the parrot. So.
Oh, that's what you said, a friend.
So I got you a friend.
We've got to feed him, or is he all right?
He's all right. He's well behaved. So how you get him on the wall, that's your challenge. Yeah. But so the new book, I don't know how it shows up on camera, but the parrot is the main character in this, and he's the inner critic. So this book's all about taming your inner critic and breaking that spell of imposter syndrome. You know, that feeling of I feel like a fraud, I'm going to get found out. And so I'd like to give your followers a gift as well. So that's on Amazon at the minute. You can buy that for $14.99.
So that's out now. Anyway.
That's out now on Amazon. Amazing. Yeah.
So is this the actual? This is obviously the actual book.
Yeah. It's under Nicola Drew, under my full name.
Yeah.
But I can give you a link to a free PDF, and so they can download a free PDF of the book.
Yeah. Just for the guys, obviously that do read books and stuff. What will this book help them do? So
it's going to help them really understand who they are, not the program, not the inner voice. Yes, we have one, that's not who you are. So it's going to really illuminate the inner critic. Most people think that voice in the head is who they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really going to highlight that.
Because it's the noisiest, isn't it?
We just listen to it.
Yeah.
We're not, it just feels like us. So, I mean, we can probably talk about that later on if you like. But yeah, that will help really illuminate that. It will help tap them back into the wisdom inside. We're all searching for something in life, and the parrot will have you searching out in the world for things and experiences and new relationships and everything, which is all fine if it doesn't come from lack.
Yeah.
But really what we want is that place of peace inside. And that from that peace is where all creativity comes from, all passion, all inspiration, all wisdom. And we haven't been trained to look there.
Yeah. And I guess because, like you say, the parrot's a noisy twat.
Yeah.
You just listen to him, don't you? Because he's the loud voice in the room in your head. Or
yeah, and he's been with you since you're about 2.
Yeah.
And so he knows all of your Achilles heels. He knows all of your weaknesses. He knows how to reel you in.
Yeah.
And then he'll blame you for it when you screw up. So
just so I know then, I can put something through his head to put him on the wall.
Or a thing round his feet.
I don't need to look after him. Yeah. In fact, I'll put him on a shelf. So I'll look after him, but I'll just tie his vehicle.
Yeah. It's funny because when I tell clients about the parrot, they're like, oh my God, why didn't someone tell me? Like, I didn't know about this. And then the next question is, how do I kill the parrot? Yeah. And I'm like, no.
I've got a gun.
You've got one. Everyone's got one. Yeah. It's about taming it.
Yeah.
It's about, they're over-promoted. These are ego minds. It's meant to sit there and help. If you didn't have a parrot, every morning when you get up, you'd have to remember how to put the shower on.
Yeah.
You'd have the parrot is like a program.
It's a part of you. I think that's a big thing, isn't it, to understand? Because when, obviously I know it's all jokes aside saying let's shoot the parrot, but people try and kill these issues, don't they, rather than manage them? But the thing is, it's about managing it, isn't it? Because you can't get rid of something, and then when you try and get rid of it's like having a spot on your face and you're going to meet a girl for the first time. It's not going to go anywhere, mate, so keep picking it and looking at it, and
it's just you know what I mean?
That's how I look at that sometimes, where it's like but people have to learn to manage it, don't they? And that's the key part.
Well, so the parrot creates the disturbance, right, and then it will come up with its dodgy solution. Right, so it is the perpetrator of the inner disturbance, of the anxiety or the anger, whatever it is, and then it will come in with numb it, distract from it. It will come up with some solution, but the solution isn't the solution of your owl. It isn't a true solution. It's a temporary relief.
Yeah.
And then the parrot will come back in and blame you for taking the temporary relief, and so it perpetuates. So we get into these habits. And we get into busyness. I made a post the other day, hands up if you've ever jumped up and pretended to be busy when someone's come into a room.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's just a female thing or not, but loads of people are like, yeah, why do we do that? Because the parrot has picked up this program of life that says, look busy.
Yeah.
Like, you got to do to be something. You've got to be busy to, be seen as something.
Yeah. Do you think that falls into, or am I going off track? Does that fall into just be yourself?
Yeah, the parrot will say being you isn't enough.
Yeah.
Hide this part of you, you're too much, you're not enough. And so we mask to suit the parrot, and then we're not authentic.
Yeah.
And so we feel detached from our true self.
And then you're confused.
And then you're confused.
You don't know who you are.
Yeah. And then you're really conscious of how you're being viewed. Because your parrot's saying, oh, well, they're going to judge you. Because parrots judge. That's what they do,
So, just to pick up on it, you said girls or women, whichever term you used, are women just like that. Is that quite a thing where women are quite different to men? I know they are for the obvious reasons, but do you know what I'm trying to say? Because there's a lot of things, isn't there, where I'm jumping completely different here, but like, you know, ADHD and autism and things like that, men and women are completely, you know what I mean? You couldn't tell the same, could they? Because they mask things differently.
Yeah.
Is that a big thing, do you think? Like,
well, there are different types of brains, you know, but males can have female type brains and females can have male type brains. So it's a very generalisation. But female brains tend to want to connect and communicate. So if they're stressed, so think about when the survival brain was developed, we were living in caves. So stereotypical gender roles were there, that the females would be in the community with the children, keeping the, you know, and so they would connect, to talk, to relieve stress. The males would be off, you know, hunting, getting food and stuff. And so the male brain is programmed to
crack on as such.
Get busy. Yeah. And when they get stressed, to move away, to calm down.
Yeah.
So there's differences there. And then, of course, the massive difference is the programming that we get through school, through culture. It's changing a bit now because the roles, you know, but, you know, certainly when I was at school, I didn't do football, girls didn't do football.
Yeah.
You know.
It's funny, isn't it?
And
really?
And so we pick up these messages
it's
about...
like blues for boys, pinks for girls.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, we're not going to get all, like, you know...
No, but, yeah.
But that's how it goes, isn't it? And it's like, it's just a norm, isn't it?
Yeah.
The thing is that, without going into all that into too much depth, I do slightly agree with that because it's how we were born. Do you know what I mean? But at the same time, I think it's just got to a point now, hasn't it, where it's like, if you're not the norm, you're abnormal, or you're not right, and that's where it all gets confusing, isn't it? Yeah.
I think all of us would do well to look at the programming that we're just running and not questioning, is it still serving us? Is it useful? Because if it's useful, go for it. It's really easy to just run off that programming. But if it's getting in the way somehow, then because it's a program, it can be updated. That's really good news. You're not stuck with it.
Yeah. No, I get it.
You know?
And that's obviously the hard work, though, isn't it? That people don't tend to want to do.
Yeah, because you've got to get out of a normal pattern, and you've got to look at it and be really objective about it, and then make the steps to change it.
I guess it's like writing with the opposite hand.
Yeah.
I actually, ironically, the other day I was doing it with Nelly, seeing if she could write.
Yeah.
And she was like...
Yeah.
But I was actually like that as well, because it's hard, but you can control it if you try.
Yeah, you've got to really concentrate though, haven't you?
But then actually, if you keep doing it, it's going to get better.
It is.
And that's reprogramming, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
I'm going to become left-handed writer just to prove. Obviously, I want to go into a lot of depth of your upbringing and everything, but can we just touch very briefly on sort of the things that I want to do this because I know that people benefit from it. But the stuff that we started with when we first met, obviously, I come to you initially for the ADHD side of things. I've never really spoke to you about it like this. I've never asked you about this, so let's just say it out loud. But do you feel like we've come away from that naturally because, not that it's less of a problem, but it's more of a... What am I trying to say? Like, so because we've come away from the ADHD stuff quite a bit, haven't we?
Yeah.
Do you think that's because things are being managed better, or the understanding's there? Do you know what I'm trying to ask? Like, because obviously, ADHD for me, when I first found out, was quite a trauma and a shit thing in my head.
Yeah.
That was obviously down to myself because I let it overtake me and make me think, fuck, something's up, and it wasn't. Yeah. But then we've obviously moved away from that quite a lot. I have, you know, I know as feedback for you as well, and I've already said it anyway, like, I feel a lot better in my, you know, last couple of months, how I'm thinking and managing things, and not being, and I got anxious the other week for the first time in a long time, and I actually said to Sarah, like, I feel anxious today. Do you know what I mean? And
you're naming it.
Yeah. But that was actually nice to know that, because that was an all the time thing, and I'm not saying it's directly linked with ADHD, but I feel like it is for me, because I overthink things, try and do too much, and then just bang, anxiety kicks in.
Yeah.
But obviously we've moved away from that quite a lot, haven't we? But like, what do you think are the key factors for people that are probably like struggling with ADHD and trying to manage things?
Yeah. Well, I think ADHD is just one part of you. Obviously, when you get the diagnosis, it's the forefront. So it's one aspect of you, and because the mind is so active and busy, what is really important is for people with ADHD, they actually learn how their mind works, which everyone should know, because if you have, mental habits, generally that most of the public are walking around with these mental habits, and then you put ADHD on top, you're just speeding everything up, aren't you?
Yeah.
So, we started with that because that was what brought you to try and get some clarity and stuff around. But really, then we move on to, well, every human could do with knowing themselves better and what makes us tick and how to have a balanced life and, these behaviours that we have. So yeah.
Yeah, I think for me as well, like one of the big things, I'm trying to think how you mentioned it now. You was on about, that was it. So the dog chewing a toy, that was one of the things that always stuck in my mind. I want you to explain it rather than me, because you'll explain it better. But, just explain the dog chewing the toy.
Yeah. So a metaphor or analogy, I never know which, for the mind, so the program mind, is that it likes to chew on things. Human minds like to get their teeth into things. They're problem-solving machines, really. And so if anyone's ever had a new puppy, you know that puppies need to chew for their teeth. So, and when they first come, they don't know the difference between a toy that you've bought them and your shoe or your best table. So you have to keep an eye on them and you have to follow them around and say, no, don't chew that. Give them something to chew, the toy. Chew this. And to start with, it's frustrating because they keep going back to your slipper or something. It doesn't matter
how much that is, they don't care.
They don't know. That's just, they need to chew. They're going to chew. We have to give them the instruction of, it's safe to chew this toy. You're going to get rewarded when you chew this toy. So our minds are the same. Given free rein, they're going to chew on something. And they're either going to chew on the past, all the ways life wasn't great, you didn't measure up, they didn't measure up. That's going to lower your mood. That's going to create stress in the system. It's going to bring down mental capacity. Or they're going to chew on a future that isn't here. And it's going to cause anxiety. And most people's mind, and mine in the past included, were flipping between the two, past, future. And so seeing that actually the mind needs to have a firm master and say, yes, I know you're going to chew, and there's activities that you do which will make it less chewy, so the hobbies and the interests. And in the first session, I asked you, what are your hobbies, what are your interests? Because I'm looking in at where are the opportunities for peace and fulfillment. And so we have to really, again, get not in a judgmental way, but get really clear, where is my mind spending most of its day? And dragging me with it. And when we find that, to start with, it's an effort, like you said, with training a puppy. You have to bring it back to safe territory. What is it allowed to chew on? Give it something that it can chew on, either something that you enjoy or something neutral, but just watching it and just watch it. As soon as you take your eye off it, there it goes. Something you bump up into in life, there it goes, chewing again. So it's a practice. But it's worth the effort, definitely worth the effort.
No, it is. But that's where, for me, and something that we then went on to after this, I remember, obviously, everyone has to chew, like you say. An ADHD brain chews
chewier,
more.
Yeah,
chewier. And it's like, it's like I've said to you loads of times, and I'm trying to think who I said it to the other day, I was talking about it. Like, I can't spend time on my own. I will eventually overcome it, and I will dig into it. I think, like, obviously the stuff we're going through at the minute, finding peace is going to help me do that, because I need to just be peaceful on my own. But for me, it's like I have to constantly do something, whether it's fidget or move, whether it's stimulate, and all these things. But the big point, and what I'm trying to make here, is that I understood is that doing is okay. Do you know what I mean? Because what I used to try and do, and I said this to you before as well, if I went to a spa day, it's a complete opposite of what I actually want to do. It's a complete opposite of what I'm used to doing, and it's ultimately it's like fucking torture. Whereas I used to be like, I should be okay doing this because I'm resting and it's good for me and blah, blah, blah. But actually, I'm going from one extreme to the other and not finding anything decent from it.
Yeah.
You know, and then I come out stressed and anxious, and I basically get like FOMO of life, thinking I've missed things.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So for me, it's about, I know everything's about balance to a degree, but it's about trying to find that middle ground, isn't it? Where the minute, obviously, as you know, my van, I'm enjoying doing little bits there. I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm pretending that I know what I'm doing, and I'm learning as I'm doing it. But I'm just doing little things, and that's actually that's a perfect version of this, because it's not stressful, it's quite chilled, but it's chewing.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to make point of, because that for me was the big learn.
Yeah.
And I think, again, for anyone else listening, or that feels like that, I think it's finding your downtime chew, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
Is that the right thing to say? It's
getting to know yourself, because your expectation, the frustration from the spa is coming from the expectation. The message is spa's relaxing.
It doesn't work.
It's not right for you. Like, why would it be right for everyone? But your mind is saying, well, I'm doing it wrong. I should be relaxed. So some people find peace jumping out of an aeroplane.
Yeah.
You know,
doesn't matter, does it?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But it's trying different things and at different times, different things.
Life, or just generally
to keep checking in. Is there something new?
It's like the book different? One, like it's like that now. Now you've told me what that's about. Already in my head, I'm like, I'm definitely going to make the effort to read this. But then, am I going to? I don't know. Do you know what I mean? And that's that thing, isn't it? Like, it's I always want to, but I've got to be in the right place to do it. And I think that's a life lesson, isn't it? Like, you can't force something that's not going to
be. I mean, you can set an intention. If it happens, great. If it doesn't, it's just not the right time. Just don't get the hammer of judgment out.
Yeah.
You know? Oh, he's going to fall over now.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah. But no, I just thought, it'd be good to share that, because obviously I know there's a lot of people that, I don't know, that may feel like that they struggle with certain traits of that type of thing, but it's just to throw another bit in there, actually, like just thinking about it, it's like the hobby side of things. Obviously, for the humour side of it, I have fucking bought everything you could possibly buy as a hobby. But then when I buy it, I buy everything you need for it.
Yeah.
Obviously, Sarah thinks it's really frustrating / funny. Because it is though, isn't it? But she always jokes saying, "Oh, you have to buy everything," but she also gets annoyed with it. Cause it's like, I know that you're not going to stick it out.
Yeah.
And then I sort of take myself into that. Yeah, I am going to do it because it's going to make me relax and blah 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 blah. And then I never get that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? And then, but recently, I said this to you last week, didn't I, about the van? That it's the first time I've actually felt a little bit like that is my little like switch off, which is a first for me. I'll probably say.
Brilliant.
Do you know what I mean? So, but that might be what a book is in another few months' time.
Exactly. Be open to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't know.
Yeah. Let's talk about you, because I know. Well, I'm excited to understand more as well. But no, I know. There's obviously, we spoke a little bit before, didn't we? Like, there's a lot of reasons why you become where you are. Do you, as a bit of a side question as well, do you always find that people that do your job have had some previous trauma?
I think most people have, haven't they?
No, yeah, I guess so. I guess so. Yeah.
But
to say that someone has, and as small or as big as it is.
Yeah.
But do you know what I'm trying to say though? Do you think you have that life changing moment?
I think a lot of people have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm probably just going to let you just run away and talk now. But talk us through, like, from your childhood to now, and what happened, and where you went to become where you are now.
Yeah. So you might guess from my accent, I grew up in the northeast of England in a mining town. So it was the 70s.
Yeah.
Which comes with good and bad. So it was a pretty free range childhood, like out with friends, you know, in the park, on bikes, like no mobiles, just literally only going home if it was food time.
Yeah.
But attitudes were really different. Parenting was really different. Schooling was quite harsh, and I know now I'm quite energetically sensitive, and so I pick up on energies and stuff. And unfortunately, some of the teachers I had at primary school, had no they shouldn't have been teachers, really, some of the stuff that happened.
What do you mean by sort of stuff? As in, like, the way they treated you?
Yeah, a lot of shame.
Bad stuff?
Like, loads of shame. So you were shamed if anything. So a little example, it might not seem a lot, but it led to years of not wanting to do public speaking. Like, a few years ago, I would not be doing this podcast.
Really?
Just no.
What, literally a couple of years ago? Like?
3, 4 years? Yeah.
Really? Yeah.
No, I just would avoid it. And when I had jobs where I had to present, I'd be awake for nights before. I'd be a nervous wreck. You know, it was not comfortable. And I know where that came from. So the one particular teacher, and this is going to sound small, but remember, like, to that 6-year-old.
No, it's a small person. It's a big thing, yeah.
So I'd asked to go to the loo, and she came into the loos, and I was obviously thirsty, so I had my hands under the tap, drinking out of my hands, right, which I didn't know was a crime. You know, so she screamed at me, dragged me in front of a whole school assembly. So I had to stand in front of the assembly, and then she slated me for, you know, drinking out of the tap and shaming me. And, you know, I can remember kids giggling and looking, and I had to stand there for the whole assembly. So just to humiliate me. So my young brain then takes on the belief school isn't safe. Public standing up in front of people is not safe. And the survival part of my brain is like, don't be judged, hide. And so even like years later in school, you know, when they used to make you read out in class, take turns, I hated that. And if anyone was reading and I knew it was my turn, I'd literally panicking, sweating.
I was like that to a degree, but I get what you're saying. Like, you're obviously heightened.
I couldn't hear it. I couldn't hear it. And then I also, now I realise my nervous system at school was really dysregulated. Like, I was anxious. I didn't have a word for it. And so I couldn't learn properly because I was in survival mode. And I used to dread it. I used to, you know, Sunday night, it was like, I don't know, Songs of Praise, Antique Roadshow, that dread. That dread is like, oh God, crazy, you know, and then another week of, you know, trying to get out of school and stuff. And I was lucky, I had really good friends. So that was one of the only reasons, you know, I would go. But learning wise, I just thought I was stupid. Like, I couldn't learn.
Was that something that you know other people were going through though, or was that more of a...
Had no clue. Everyone else seemed to have it down. Like, I used to look at the kids, you know, when some kids get stressed, they act out and they get told off, and I used to look and think, oh my God, how can they make themselves the centre of attention? I literally just wanted to hide. That was my nervous system going into freeze mode. So yeah, that put me off education, gave me some pretty harsh programming. And then in the town I lived in, at mining town, of course, Maggie Thatcher comes along, and then there was the miner strikes. So all of a sudden, like, my child's brain's looking at, I was probably 10 or something by then, like, there's families split, you know, so there was either the picketers and then the scabs who crossed. My dad was working at the colliery, he chose not to cross the picket line, so we suddenly had no money. You know, so that was a whole different thing. But then the news, it was a little bit like, it's different to COVID, but, you know, when COVID was on, it was everything. Everyone was talking about it. Yeah. The news was all about it. Like, in school, we knew whose dads were picketed, you know, which side are you on? And, like, if you go back...
split the schools as well.
Split the schools, split the community. If you go back to my town now, there are still families who will not be in the same pub as each other.
Not just because they chose a different path.
From that. Yeah. And so, you know, all of a sudden I'm starting to think, oh God, the world's not safe. Like, my little sensitive energy. And so the anxiety ramped up. I didn't know it was anxiety. I just, you know, thought it was who I was. I thought that's just how I am. I'm too sensitive for this world, sort of thing, you know. And so I did what a lot of teenagers do. I started going out and drinking, and, you know, underage drinking in pubs. Met my first boyfriend at 16. He was 24 in a pub. Had a house with him by the time I was 18 because I wanted to get out of the family home. Wanted to be grown up. I mean, so many... I've got like, my kids are older, but my 17-year-old, I look at him and think, oh my God. Yeah,
you was out by then.
I was... I was... my poor parents, you know. But anyway, you know... And I knew pretty soon that I'd made a mistake. You know, he wasn't working. I was the only one working. We bought our first house, £18,000 it was, right?
Wow.
But then, because he was out of work, we remortgaged to get him a lorry so he could be, and then mortgage rates went up to 15%. So all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, you know.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. I was a real people pleaser. I knew it was wrong, but I didn't know how to get out. And it wasn't till I was 21, I thought, because he was like pressuring me to get married, and I was just, I can't do this, you know. Nothing against him, just it's just not right.
Life, isn't it? Yeah.
So I just walked away. And went to live with a couple of girlfriends and left him in the house, naive again, like I was on that mortgage, right? Fast forward a few years, he made himself bankrupt. All of a sudden, I've got all this debt.
Really?
Yeah. Right. So anyway, that's another story. But the naivety of just, you know, not knowing how life works. And then for the next couple of years after I left, I sort of had my teen years, you know, working, living for Friday nights, Saturday nights and partying, you know, having a good time, but sort of knowing this isn't what I want. And luckily for me, I randomly just went one day. A friend was looking to go to university, randomly went, and I thought, I'll apply. Why not? So I moved down to Leicestershire, went to university, studied for a degree in psychology, which I absolutely loved. That was the first spark of, oh, this is my passion.
Why do you think you did that?
I was so fascinated by people.
Really?
Remember at school, I was watching, I was observing. I was the one like, oh, wow, that's interesting, because I was so hypervigilant.
Yeah. I always find things like that really interesting, because I know obviously everybody's different, but if you were to pick 10 children and put them in that same situation, not all of them think like... Do you know what I mean? Like, what makes your brain think, I'm going to look and learn? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's not... You can't answer that,
no.
But
Yeah.
I still always wonder that, you know what I mean? Because it's like, some people are so good at that whole, like... It's like, I know we always love our own children.
Yeah.
As we should. Not should, but... You know, like... But Leo, he's so clever. If he watches you do one thing, he'll know how to do it. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
But then another child would just... Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What makes the brain so different? It's amazing,
all different.
isn't it?
But bearing in mind, I thought I was stupid at school. I scraped through, and then by the time I got to university, my nervous system had regulated, so I could learn. I was interested, and I came out with a first class.
So all of a sudden you had this energy of learning.
I came out with a first class degree, the highest you can get, and all of a sudden I'm like, I thought I was stupid, right? You know, so it was amazing, and that was my path into psychology.
So how old are you there?
So I was 23 when I started uni, so I was
older.
older.
When you came to this area?
Yeah. And then met my husband and stayed down here. Yeah. So that was, you know, quite a good experience for me. It was so good to suddenly think, oh, I'm on the path. And then I just started continuing to learn. And then something happened when I was 27. My dad passed away. And this was another pivotal point for me, because I had what I now know is a peak experience. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. So I got a call. He had cancer, and I got a call early one morning. I had to get to the hospital. So I jumped in the car.
So you already knew he had cancer?
Yeah. So he'd had cancer for about 6 months. And I jumped in. I was, as you can imagine, like stressed. You know, it's, oh my God.
Yeah.
And I was driving the car along the A46 to the Glenfield Hospital, and it was a June morning, and the sun was just coming up, and I couldn't see the sun. I was just like, and then all of a sudden, literally, and words can't really do it justice, but there was this feeling of peace and expansion, and then the beauty of the sun, and the car disappeared. It's weird to talk about.
Not actually disappeared.
No.
Right.
But in my experience,
yeah.
And I was just connected to everything. It was an incredibly beautiful experience in the midst of this, you know, devastation. And I knew he died.
Right, I thought that's what you were... Okay.
Yeah. That was the minute. And it was beautiful. Honestly, it was incredible. Right. And so I didn't know what was happening. I didn't understand it. And then I went through the normal grief thing, but it had planted a seed. There was like a little seed germinating. What was that? Like, how does that work? Like, I don't understand it. And looking back now, because you can only really see looking back, I started to get into training to be an energy healer, and I started looking at different, I was searching, I was seeking, I didn't know what, but that piece that we talk about inside.
Yeah.
So that sort of cracked me open. And then life went on. 3 years later, I had my first child. And he was born with an undiagnosed heart condition. So all of a sudden, again, the terror kicked in, you know. And I had another experience. So the day of his he had 2 operations. When he was 12 days old, he had his open heart surgery. And they said, you know, you've got to leave the hospital. He's going to be in there like 8-10 hours. Go home, because I hadn't been home.
How did that feel?
Weird. I literally ran out of the... We had a house where you park down the side. I ran out of the car, like thinking, I don't want to see any neighbours, you know, going back into the empty house, you know. All I could do was get in the bath. I don't know why that was the thing.
Really? Just calling.
Get in the bath, like top the water up, get in the bath. And eventually it was like, no, we need to get back to the hospital. Well, a few hours later, we got the call. He's out. He's good. Come down to the intensive care unit. So brilliant. So we get to the intensive care unit, but they put us in a side room, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, this is not good, you know. And we sit, I don't know how long it was, but it felt like an eternity. And then eventually they said, right, you can come in. And as I was walking across, I don't know if you've ever been in a intensive care unit, it's massive at Glenfield, it's huge. As I was walking along, I could see the surgeon, and I could see like the amount of machines around this tiny baby is, you know, and they'd prepared us that his chest would be open because babies' hearts swell and they haven't got much room. So we were prepared to see this. But actually when we got there, they'd closed his chest, which was good, but because they'd closed his chest, they had all these external like batteries on him.
Oh, right, yeah.
And pipes.
Yeah.
And then because they didn't want him to swell, they'd put him on a chill pad. And then because he was on a chill pad, they'd heavily sedated him so he didn't shiver. So basically when I saw him, I thought he was dead, you know. And so again, from fear, like this intense fear, what happened was, and now I know what happened, but at the time I didn't, all of a sudden, this peace came again, right? It was like an instant. And again, the machines fell away and there was just me and the baby. And I knew that he'd be okay. Now, I didn't know he would live, so that's a weird thing to say.
Yeah.
But I knew his essence would be fine. It's a hard, you know, it's a really difficult thing to put into words. And that feeling of peace and love and presence was incredible. And it lasted about 3 days, and I didn't tell anybody. I thought I was having a nervous breakdown.
Really?
I didn't
So you
understand.
didn't feel it was a good thing at the time?
It felt beautiful, but there was no mental chatter.
Yeah.
Which is weird when your child is sick.
Yeah.
Like when you're in, you know, my mind had an expectation. You should be feeling nervous. Like you should be not right here. And I was just feeling so connected, so peaceful, so blissful. And so I didn't say anything. I just went around. Yeah. And it wasn't until we moved out of intensive care and days later they were starting to talk about us going home. And all of a sudden my mind was like, how am I going to cope without any of these machines, these nurses? Like, how am I going to give them these meds? And so the program kicked back in. And that peace faded again. But it was a much bigger glimpse. It was a much bigger experience. And so, again, I was a new mum and, you know, I was getting on with things. But now I can see in the background I was trying to understand. I was reading different books. I was trying to really understand. And so life moved on and I had another child. And then on my 40th, around my 40th birthday, went on a big family holiday. And I discovered my husband was having an affair. This was a side swipe.
Is that whilst on holiday?
Yeah, on the family holiday, right? So I discovered. So this was like another pivotal thing in my life. But this time there was no peace. This time it was struggle. This time the mind kicked in, and I had no clue. I'm pretty intuitive. It was such a shock. And then there was the worry of having 2 small kids. I was working part-time at the time, so my mind kept telling me I'm going to end up living under a bridge. None of that happened, thankfully, but I stopped. I didn't have any appetite. I couldn't eat. And so this time, all I did was, thankfully I had kids, so I got up to take them to school. I would put them to bed at night, and then I would just crawl into bed. But I wasn't sleeping.
That was just that survival thing.
That was just that survival thing. But what emerged this time was over-exercising. Right, so I didn't have that. In the past, those experiences had then led me to searching and seeking and understanding. This time, I was trying to just numb this feeling inside, and so this was any minute I had spare. I was like, "What class can I do?" Like I was doing mixed martial arts and dance and all of these high intensity stuff.
Did you do that on purpose, or was that literally like something you felt you needed to do?
I'd been doing some anyway, which I enjoyed, but then, like, if their dad had them, I'd do 2 or 3 classes back to back. Yeah, and I've got hypermobility, so eventually I started to get injured. I injured my knee, and now I'm up shit creek because I've been using that as a medicine, and I can't do it. So I changed exercises. I started lifting weights and yoga and stuff. And then I hurt my shoulder. I was like, so now I can't do any of the high impact twisting on my knee. And now I can't lift and get into postures in yoga. So now I'm left just with me. Right? Now I have to feel this stuff. And now I can see that's a gift. Because if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't have gone deeper into discovering who I was. And that led me to train as a psychotherapist. I trained as a coach first, and a psychotherapist. And because So
how old were you then? Sorry.
So I was 40. So early 40s. So quite late. But I just felt, so I needed to understand this, and I wanted to help other people who had been through similar stuff to me. Because everywhere, you get a lens for life. So because I was struggling, everywhere I looked, I could see people lost in their own little struggle. And mine was exercise, but theirs might have been food or vodka or their struggle.
But it just highlights the problems.
And because I was already interested in psychology, I thought, right, this is it. And I gave up. By this time, I was working in a really good consultancy job, and it was term time only, and I was a single mum, and I walked away. I mean, it was almost like life grabbed me by the collar and said, you got to do this, because it didn't make any sense to leave that world. But now it's a gift that I did that, because I'm so grateful. And so I studied and started to feel better in myself, and I had meaning and purpose now, because now I had a mission now. And then
when you started studying, would you say you were still struggling? Obviously, let's look back at that. Would you say that was a good thing to do, or I mean, obviously you can only say it's a good thing because it's brought you to where you are now. But do you know what I'm trying to say? Would you recommend that? Because that doesn't sound the right potion, does it?
I'd come through a lot of it. But I hadn't fully. Healed everything. But as you train to become a therapist, you have to open all your cupboards. You have to.
Do they do that with you then? Is that
you have to sort of own your stuff, and so that was, and I was well grounded, and I wasn't out of balance or anything by that time. I had capacity. One of the things as a therapist is, have you got capacity? And as part of it took me 2 or 3 years to train as a therapist, so I had time to grow, and each year I was getting better and better. And it's funny because as I'd done all my training, and I was thinking, right, that's it, trained. And sort of these experiences that I'd had after my dad and after my baby, after Will, they'd sort of faded a little bit into the background, and life had got busy and stuff. And then I was doing some work as a a coach, a freelance coach, and they'd asked me to create a parenting podcast course. And I just was making the kids tea, so pans on, busy, and I've just searched on YouTube for stress. And this video came up, and the guy was talking. I just stopped and I thought, oh my God, he's describing what happened to me with these experiences. And that led me onto the next phase, which is really energy and spirituality and who we really are, like that wise owl. So that was another phase of my life.
How long was your course at uni?
My original psychology degree, 3 years.
Yeah. So obviously going through that whilst, let's say, you were still, going through your, struggles as such, do you think that helped you then because it made you sort of step up? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I think there's a belief that until you've healed all your stuff, you shouldn't move forward. And I disagree with that because I think it's in the moving forward
where you find
where you heal.
Agree. And you know what? I asked you that question selfishly because I help a lot of people, right? A lot of people rely on me. Literally hundreds if you look at it as in followers and people I coach in the gym and everything else. And I often think, and I'm openly saying this now, I often think that you have to have your shit completely together to help other people. Yeah. But then I have this and I'll call it a passion, a fire inside that my brain just goes, I don't care because I know the answer. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I'm saying? Not saying I know the answers and I can fix everything, but as in, when I help people, it makes me feel so good and it proves that I know that I'm able to do it. So therefore, do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Then it blanks out that whole, you need to have your shit together.
Yeah.
Because I think we all do it though, don't we? That whole so, you know what? I will say honestly, someone said it to me once and it always stuck in my head. I won't say who it is. But someone said it to me once, and he said, he just gave something away. But no, he basically said to me that you're doing all these videos talking about, because I used to do a lot of videos of me just talking on camera to social media stuff, and he's saying, but you've got all your shit going on, and that really actually hurt me because of who he is as well.
Yeah.
And then it made me really question, and I was like, fuck, you're right. But then I had to flip out of that, because, and then I was like, hold on a minute. Because this guy, it means a lot to me, but he doesn't understand that world. Yeah. So that was a very shallow judgment, if you want to call it that. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
And it made me then think, no, actually, that's not right at all, because we're all able to help somebody at any point that we're at.
Yeah.
And also, I get such a, and I know you do as well, because you wouldn't do your job, but I get such a buzz from helping people and being able to, and it's not that I'm right, I know, because that's not what it's about.
No.
But, the messages you get sometimes where people, someone sent me a really nice message yesterday on the podcast thing saying how much, the one that I shared the other day about, taking cocaine and stuff like that. They were like, literally, you've helped me massively there because that's how I feel and blah, blah. Do you know what I'm trying to say? And
yeah.
I think you have to forget that part, don't you, where it's like, you don't need everything all in a line.
Yeah, as a human being, we're a messy bunch and we're never going to have everything all lined up. Life's an evolution, isn't it? Mm. But if you've got a call and if you've got a passion and you have a couple of steps ahead of someone else in an area, then you can guide them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's too often people pass judgment on that, don't they? Because I think as well, and I will say this, and I'll ask your opinion on it as well, but I think there's too many people nowadays that are life coaches, and I'll say them like that, and, it's quite harsh to say, but it's true. There's a lot of young life coaches that haven't been through life traumas or they haven't experienced much of life, and all of a sudden they're, selling these gold packages for 10 grand and blah, blah, blah. Now, great entrepreneurial sort of mindset.
Yeah.
But what are you coaching? Do you know what I'm trying to say? And I think that's why sometimes people are quick to judge, aren't they, when they go, well, what do you know? Or,
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's
and it's not a regulated industry, so I think if you're choosing a coach, you have to use your intuition. You have to really check it out, and because those type of coaches might be right for some people.
No, cool. And that's going back to what we said a minute ago.
Yeah.
But it's just a shame, isn't it, that, you know, young, inexperienced life coaches are also taking people down a journey that they just don't know. And that's where I think sometimes it can then stumble and give a bad reputation. Yeah. Whereas, you know, I'm not saying you have to be the older person to have experienced that stuff, but you know when you gel with someone a lot better, don't you? And I think that's what sort of takes you down that path.
Yeah.
Tell me and the people listening what you mean by the spiritual side of things, because you hear it a lot, don't you? Like, you told me his name, so don't remind me, because I need to show you that I do listen to you. Michael Singer.
Yes, yeah. Michael Singer.
He's massive on. I mean, I say that's all he talks about, isn't it? Really, let's be honest. Yeah. Everything he talks about comes back to peace within yourself and your. So what actually do you mean by that?
Yeah. So like you say, there's a ton of baggage around it, and there's so many extremes. But how I see it is that there is an essence of who we are, a true nature, that is here on a, you know, to experience life. And that part of us is loving, creative, wise, has a mission. And we have a human side which can veil that aspect of us. Yeah. And you know, when you get intuition, or when you just get guided, or when you fall into that peaceful place, that is the unveiling of the program.
Yeah.
Right. And so for me, spirituality is everyday normal stuff. Everything is made of, you know, we're all, I mean, I'm a bit of a geek, I like quantum physics, but everything is energy. Everything. This, you know, old matey boy, the inner critic.
This is energy, isn't it?
That is energy, yeah. It's all energy, just moving and vibrating at different densities. Yeah. And we forget that we are this energetic being. Yeah. And we get so hypnotized by the human side. And, you know, the human side it sort of pulls us into the drama of life, and it pulls us into separation. And it takes us out of that place of feeling connected.
So do you think we as human are originally, this is actually going in many directions, but do you think we are originally peaceful and connected, and we're taken away? Or are we the other way around? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, no. We come in, I mean, think of a baby.
You have no problems.
You have no problems, right? You have an instinct to cry if you're hungry.
Yeah.
But, you know, you're in your pram and someone looks at you, you're not saying, don't look at me, I hate my thighs and I've got a dirty nappy. You know, you're just curious, aren't you?
Yeah.
It's not until about 2 when this Parrot, the program kicks in, and everyone has a program, but it starts to bias. Suddenly, you know, the baby has to learn that it's separate and that it is individual. That's called the individuation process, and it's necessary. But I think what's happened in this culture, in this era, we haven't got any initiations. All of the initiations have disappeared. And so what's happened is normally the child would go through the individuation process, and then there'd be some sort of initiation with elders telling them stories, myths, legends. There would be actual sitting around in community, and they would guide them back to, but you're not this program.
Yeah.
You've had challenges, you're going to have challenges, but you are not those challenges. You know, these mountains that we're carrying around in our lives, you know, we're meant to climb them and learn from them. We're carrying them around. But in the past, there would have been some sort of initiation ritual around that. And now what's happening is people are staying in that individuation process, and the world is set up where all of a sudden it's about materialism. So it's about what you've got, what you can do. It's about the identities, the labels, the sticky notes that we put on ourselves. Right? Now all of this stuff can be lost. So now the nervous system, the mind has to be worried, like I might lose all this, then who am I? I'm just this void. And it's like, no, there's There's an essence in every soul, every human, that is of love. And in this lifetime, not everyone's going to uncover that. I get that. There's some pretty horrible things going on in the world. But at heart, there is this connection through this, essence, this true nature, the unprogrammed part of us.
Do you think, I'm going to say something now, right? Very open and probably quite deep.
Yeah.
But do you think it's possible for me to say that I have never experienced peace?
I think your mind might have an expectation of what peace is.
Yeah.
And that is not the peace that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Right?
That makes sense.
It's not necessarily a peaceful mind. So when people think about spirituality, they might think about meditation. And there's a misnomer that is, well, to meditate, you have to quiet your mind. Well, good luck, right? Because that's hard and it's not actually necessary. You can have activity, mental activity go on, and you can be in there noticing it, observing it. So in normal life, in a normal level of consciousness, we're identified with this internal chatter and we're believing it and we're following it. But there's a space in between, which is that what I call the wise owl. But really I'm talking about your true nature. Is that true nature is an awareness of that mental chatter. So once it's not who you are and you don't have to believe it, you see it's a program that has been running, and 90% of the stuff it chats about, it chatted about yesterday and it's going to chat about tomorrow. It's really boring. Yeah. Right? And so it can be useful, but there's a you in there that can be aware of that. And that you in there that can be aware of that is not disturbed by that. Yeah, so for example, the space in this room, right? It doesn't mind if you've got trophies in here or glittery thongs or people. We could be having a massive argument and the space in this room would hold us. We could take everything out of this room and the space would be here. You could fill it with all of your gym equipment. The space would, right? It has no preference. Yeah. It's not clinging, it's not grasping. Yeah. And that is your true nature. That's who you really are.
So I'm just going to throw something in here that I'm sure it's on the same track, but it's just something that pops into the head as you're saying that, right? So the person I am, and we spoke about this before anyway, just thinking of those examples, what you just said there, this room as it is now makes me feel good. This room, we've had nothing in it, would make me feel shit. Yeah. It's like if this room had, I don't know, things all over the place. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So I admittedly, I'm quite, what am I trying to say? My what I see is how I feel. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. So your mind has certain stories about. What happens is your thoughts. Yeah. So your thoughts. You're telling a story about what that means. So if it was full of crap, your mind would be like, "This is not good. This needs to be out."
That's what I see a person that's in a good place of peace. That's what I see them as. It wouldn't matter. Is that what you're trying to say as well?
It ultimately wouldn't matter, but still, there could be a preference. So still, it wouldn't come from oh God, I hate this room, and I need to do something about it. There could be a preference, unattached, and actually, I feel inspired to clear it out and put something different in. So there could still be action, but it's not coming from a mind that said this is wrong. Yeah. Right.
I know that's not the only way to look at peace, but it was just something that those sorts of things link, don't they?
Yeah.
I admittedly as well. Like I say, I am very much like my surroundings matter to me. I'd like to eventually get control of that because they shouldn't matter in a way of, it's a bit like what you were saying the other day about. You were talking about a sandwich, weren't you? A space in the middle, like what happens, that moment of thought, and then what you actually do. Yeah. As opposed to putting it together and going, this is what's happened, this is what
yeah.
But that's my past. Yeah. Someone bangs into my car, I go and pull the keys out of the engine and throw them. Yeah,
that's reactivity from anger, from a stress response. Yeah, from the program. And so most people are running, and me included in the past, had this, you know, something happens, my mind kicks straight in, and there's a reaction. And now what I'm seeing is, well, actually, like you've just said, there is a gap between that. Thought is creating an experience, and if you're not attached to your thoughts, you can step back metaphorically, and there is your power in your healthy response.
Yeah.
So we go from this reactive, you know, if the survival brain in the body is there to protect us from predators, right? But most of us are activating that survival brain so that the body thinks it's going to get eaten alive any minute if someone isn't driving at the right speed for us, or if, you know, it rains and we want it to be sunny. So we're disturbing ourselves unnecessarily.
But that's something, you know, without making this a therapy session for me, I don't mind opening up about these things, because they're things that most likely people that are listening will benefit from anyway. But we spoke about them before, didn't we, where we're like, I've obviously grown up with a very how did you term it, where you was, I was always on edge, wasn't I?
Brace for chaos.
Yeah, because I grew up like that, that's how my life continued. You know, and then everything I've done, like whether it be around the streets when I was young, you know, looking for fights because I was going to get beat up if I didn't, sort of thing. I had to like act one of the hard ones. Do you know what I mean? That carried on into school, doing the same thing. Then I used to fight in school all the time, you know, then the army, you know, then I came out and went into security. So it's always that stress response sort of things, isn't it?
Yeah.
Strongman, again, it's stress. But that's that thing, isn't it, where you're constantly on that then, aren't you? And you never deprogram, is that the right way of looking at it?
Yeah, so you're running a program, but that program is activating a nervous system that is dysregulated. So you lose capacity for zoomed out rational logical thinking. We lose empathy. We go into a hypnotic trance state where all we can focus on is the problem. Because our brain goes into a different state. It goes into survival mode. And so it's hard to relax, it's hard to enjoy, and the body can become addicted to that cortisol, those stress hormones.
That's what you were saying, weren't you?
Yeah. And then all of a sudden to see, oh, I don't need to live in an activated nervous system, and to start doing things to reduce the activation, so it goes back into out of sympathetic into parasympathetic, if you want to use technical terms. And then people who've not lived in a calm nervous system, they learn to do that, and it doesn't feel safe. Right? Because it's not the norm.
Which would be me, right?
Yeah.
Technically, yeah.
So then the mind starts looking for drama. Who can I pick an argument with? What can I watch on the telly that's going to get me dysregulated? So because what becomes normal to the system is what it's used to. A little bit, if you try and give up smoking, the body's going to alert because nicotine levels have gone down. Even though nicotine's really bad for the body, the body wants to stay the same. It wants, you're meant to have this amount of nicotine, and so I'm going to send out an alert. I'm going to give you a craving until you give me it. But over time, if you don't give it the nicotine, it won't alert, because it's now the normal is no nicotine.
Took control of it and reprogrammed.
Now put some in, and it's going to give you a horrible feeling. The same with stress hormones. Most of us live in a soup of these stress hormones that the nervous system, the body gets used to, and the little cells in the body get habituated to it. And then we try and relax. We try and calm the nervous system down. It feels terrible to start with. So we're always looking for the next. And you don't have to look far now. Just go on the news or social media, So the news, I'm very careful about what I consume, because the news is built to activate and put us into fear and separation.
That's why I always say, people that say it too, I don't know, obviously everyone has their own opinions, and a lot of people say, like, because I say I don't watch the news because it's just absolute shit, right? Secondly, because I'm very responsive to that sort of thing. Why would I then do that? I don't need to know something shit. Like, unfortunately, I'm one of them people that it will probably stay in my head all day.
Yeah.
You know, I'm showing a weakness here, but it's just a fact. Like, if someone cuts me up in the car, that could stay in my head for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
And it's something that I hold my hands up to. I'm still trying to work on.
That's your work. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's something that I know is not serving me well.
Yeah.
And like we spoke before about like being stressed and stuff, and I think that's probably one of the reasons my year didn't go to plan competing wise, because there was too much stress externally that, do you know what I mean, that caused the drama. So yeah, I think like there's a lot of people, I've gone off track where I was going now, but there's a lot of people, isn't there, that respond to those things.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying. And they wonder why you cut certain things out, and like, it's not bad for you. We're all different though, aren't we?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, not judging anyone that does sit there and watch news, but why the fuck would you want to sit there and watch a load of shit anyway? That's how I look at it, right?
Yeah.
To me, I'm like, why would I want to sit and watch the news and be like, this person's died, that person's, whatever. I don't know what goes on in the news nowadays. But you know what I'm trying to say? At the end of the day, it's all stuff that's always there to trigger you, isn't it, as opposed to actually serve you.
Yeah. We have to, I mean, and some people can manage that, and that's fine. But I think you're very wise to know what you react to, because like, you can't stop cars cutting you up. You can intentionally avoid the news.
Yeah.
But life's gonna bring things like life's a contact sport, and things are going to happen, and so I call it the invitation to dance. So someone cutting you up, there's an invitation from the Parrot to dance with this drama. Right now, whether you do or not, it's not a judgment call, but are you the peace that we think we get by reacting is the false peace. Because we're just activating a nervous system and discharging it into the environment.
But you think you're serving yourself, don't you?
Yeah.
And I'll say that firsthand, because I still, even though I try and stop it, I still feel that thing like, I need to fix this. No, you're not. You don't need to fix it. You're actually not fixing it as well. All you're doing is stressing yourself out even more. Yeah.
So they've gone, and now your day is ruined.
Yeah.
Right?
They don't care.
Now, don't get me wrong. If someone's about to attack you, you want to get angry. Right? Because that's a survival response. But if someone is cutting you up and you can't, do anything about it, it's happened. Well, now what impact are you choosing to have in your life about that?
Yeah. And that's that really, really powerful and current thing for me at the moment, about that whole controlling how you feel. Because there's so many people in this current life we live in that are victims, isn't there? That feel like everything's against them, and it's not fair because, and all this sort of stuff. And then they go on and think that, like, everything that happens, it's happening to them rather than just something that is happening. And then they get swallowed up in it, don't they? And lose track of who they are. Yeah.
Because in that stress response, things do feel personal, and, I, as a trauma specialist, I want people to heal, move through, they don't need to hang on to it. They, life does happen, and it is terrible, some things that happen to people, but we don't need to let that define us. We can see that it happened at a certain time and put a different context on it. But what happens is often when trauma happens, or people don't have the life circumstances, that they stop doing the things that would help them. So say someone gets depression, and of course they don't want to go out and see their friends or do the sport that they want, or they can't go to work. So all of a sudden they've got more space in the day to be ruminating and up in their mind, and then now they've got even less incentive to be in the world, and to be doing things at home like pottering in the garden or something. And so this leaves even a bigger vacuum. And what do we fill it with when you're depressed? You fill it with all of those personal, pervasive thoughts of what's wrong with life and what's wrong with me. Yeah.
But how do you think you get out of that pattern? Because obviously you've got to give yourself that space, haven't you?
So, yeah, because depression can be thought of deep rest. Deep rest is needed. And the real thing that needs to change is that in the waking hours, the person needs to find something to distract them from the mind. Now, that's hard when you're depressed.
Yeah, of course.
Because you want to just think into it.
That's literally the only thing you think about.
And because your sleep's off, because depression changes the balance of our sleep, our motivation circuits are depleted. So you wake up the next day feeling even worse, even less able to go and do the small things. And so when I work with someone with depression, I'm really, to start with, we need to de-traumatize anything that's led to it.
Yeah,
do that.
Trigger sort of thing.
Yeah, so if something's happened, there's a technique that I use for that, which is fairly simple. But then it's about building their day back, so that at least even for half an hour a day, they're not up there in their mind ruminating. Yeah.
Is that to build like a purpose, sort of? Is that what you mean like that? Like to...
That will be the ultimate aim, but to start with, to stop listening to the mind, just to
give you the breathing space,
just to give you that breathing space, because that's going to have an impact on your sleep. You're going to have a little bit better quality sleep that night because there's less stuff to process. And then naturally what happens is the person's well-being will start to want to come back up. But the kicker is that other things interfere, because obviously when they're feeling terrible,
the littlest thing,
then they might want to use food or something like that.
Plus the littlest thing that goes wrong is a big thing.
It's a big thing. It's magnified. Yeah.
I find that so interesting, because obviously we've all done it ourselves, where one day you've dropped your phone, smashed your screen, and you don't really care that much. And then another day you've, I don't know, probably just dropped something and stained it that you can get the stain out of, and then it's the end of the world.
It's the end of the world. Yeah. It's where you are in your mental state of mind. Yeah.
But like, obviously, because you work with a lot of different people in like trauma situations and stuff like that, what's one of the things that, I'm going to make a little story up without being too long. I'm going to make up a person, right? But let's just say somebody that has, worked in a passionate job that they love. They're now unable to do that job. And they feel like their only purpose in life was that passionate job, and they now can't do that thing.
Yeah.
How do you know what I'm trying to say? How do you transition to understand that there is more to life without saying that?
Yeah. Well,
I guess that is a good saying.
Yeah. Baby steps, because any time our identity, our purpose is pinned on one thing, that's a life out of balance. Because it's
not.
It's not. Life could take that.
Why are you saying that is everything?
That's so all of us. So with a client, and people can go online and do this. There's an emotional needs audit that I do. We look at 10 areas of your life. So there's 10 emotional needs that we all have. It's actually in the book as well. So there's things.
Buy the book.
There's there's things like a sense of control, a sense of status, giving and receiving attention, meaning and purpose, being part of a community. There's these emotional needs. You might know Maslow's needs. So for shelter and food, they're the basic survival needs. And once they're met, we can then move up and, get more meaning and purpose in our lives. But we've got these emotional needs, and if something happens in life that impacts us getting these needs met in balance, then we'll start to feel not right. We might not be able to put words in it, but the system will feel off. And then often what happens is it's a downward spiral, because then we start to worry about it. Well, what's wrong? And so more needs then stop getting met in balance. So what I'm doing with clients is looking at, where is the life out of balance? One, is there trauma that needs to be traumatized? Two, have they got a really difficult mental habit that is keeping them down? Usually that is with everyone.
I guess that's quite a common one, isn't
so
it?
Teaching them about how the mind works. You're not your thoughts. Your thoughts aren't true. Like, how you think and speak today is how you live tomorrow. Really getting them to see that they don't have to believe those thoughts in their head. They don't choose them. They can just be like music on the background that you're not interested in, rather than up here, believe in everything. So there's lots of psychological education. I'm working really as well to calm the nervous system down. So this is practical things like body relaxation, guided imagery. We've done some of that, where so that as well as de-traumatizing, as well as educating about who you are and how the mind works, we're literally calming the nervous system down, because once that's calm, you're going to feel more able to go out into the world and get your needs met in balance.
Yeah. Do you know, to use that exact same sort of feeling and analogy in training, it's very, and I've done this so many times, and I know, people that compete and train and all that sort of stuff will feel the same. When you're strong enough to do something, you've ate the right food. Do you know what I mean? Everything, you ticked all the right boxes, but you're stressed.
Yeah.
And you can't fucking do that thing to save your life.
No.
Yeah, the next day, the exact same thing, and you get it, and you do it.
Yeah.
And and I wanted to bring that up only because that's a very simple analogy of exactly the same thing, isn't it? Like, you can have everything in the right place, but if you're stressed, your nervous system is putting such a dampener on it. Yeah. You're not there, are you?
No. The nervous system depletes you of energy. So in a stress mode, the nervous system shuts off your digestion. Yeah. So anything from a dry mouth to a squirming stomach. Your immune system shuts down because it needs to utilize the energy. Yeah. So the energy moves from the core of your body to your arms and legs. And you think it's very activating. So if you think that you have 100 units of energy in a normal day, you turn on the stress response and half or more of those are just going to leak out.
Yeah, and you've only got 50 left.
You've only got, So now you're not grounded, you're not centered either. And the security guards in your brain are trying to tell you there's a danger here somewhere and I just can't see it. Yeah. Right? You're scattered. Yeah. Because if that nervous system is there to, like we said before, to protect you from a tiger. Now, when that was around, there probably was a tiger in that bush, and so you'd be locked on it. You wouldn't want to be relaxing or doing something else. But now we're activating the nervous system through psychological stress. It's not built for that. This survival brain, the lower brain, is the ancient technology. And then we got the human rational logical brain on top as we developed. And that new part gave us the gift of being able to imagine something that isn't here. And that's great for humans because we can build rockets that didn't exist.
Yeah, but it's also a bullshit side of it, isn't it?
But now we can torment ourselves about something
that's
not even there, right? And so our poor survival brain is scanning this stuff, seeing you fail at something in the future that isn't really here, and then your energy just sinks away because you're now in a stress response. You're scattered energetically, you're scattered psychologically.
And that's where visualization comes in a good part for that, doesn't it?
Yeah, calming making sure your nervous system not as much like get out ahead of yourself. So in the few weeks before, like really paying attention to where am I? It's really useful to know what are my early warning signs of stress. So like for me, my jaw tenses, right? I didn't know that about myself. But now if I catch myself, I'm like, oh, okay, that's an early warning sign for me. Now I need to... So because often we don't pick up these cues. There will be behaviour cues, reaching for that drink a bit more. There will be psychological cues. You just beat yourself up about something that you wouldn't normally. There will be physical cues, tension, aches, pains in the body. And if you can get to know them in yourself... Now you don't have to wait until the system goes into an activation. You can get in ahead and see,
stop it before.
What's happening here?
It's funny because when you say about those things, I never used to have triggers. I used to just find myself on the floor.
Yeah.
And then go, how the fuck did I get here? And then you go, I think I'm stressed. I used to get, one point in my life, very shit time in my life, to say the least. The only way I could feel better was to lie on the floor, facing up, and you know what, this actually might be a form of grounding. I don't know.
Surrender.
Yeah, but it is surrender, isn't it?
Surrender.
Honestly, I was so anxious and so, I don't know, even thinking back to it now, it was a horrible period. I could only lie upside down on the floor and feel safe.
Yeah.
The safest I could feel. I don't know.
Yeah.
I remember it actually now. I've not thought about it for a long while. Yeah.
I can feel the activation in you.
Yeah.
And that, if you think back to that poor guy, like he was trying his best to manage, an activated nervous system. It's this strong stuff. It's not an enjoyable experience. And you did what makes sense at the time.
Yeah.
We're only ever doing what makes sense at the time.
To survive, really.
To survive. And what makes sense is dependent on, are we in a hijacked stress response where we lose our capacity for rational logical thinking? Prefrontal cortex, the stress hormones take it offline. So now all of a sudden your common sense is gone. Your wisdom, your ability to see different perspectives. Now you're in an animal state of survival. And in that state, you've got 4 choices. You're not choosing, your nervous system is choosing. You either fight, this is anger energy, go towards. You flee, this is anxiety, run away. You freeze, this is just shut down.
Yeah.
Or you fawn, and this is people please, try and get out of a situation by people pleasing. And that's your only choices in that nervous system. And it's the nervous system that will choose, not you.
Yeah, that's where I was just thinking then, because it's, what do? You don't do anything, you do what happens.
You do what the nervous system wants you to do. Then as the stress hormones go back down, the brain comes back online. Now you come back to your senses. But because we don't understand it, now what happens is we go into guilt and shame and, oh God, I can't believe I did that. What an idiot, I did it again. Instead of thinking, oh no, I was emotionally hijacked. There's good information in that, like what was happening, what was the leader. And now that I'm back to my senses, well, now I need to be compassionate. I need to learn, I need to make some adjustments. I need to reach out for help or support from family, or I need to balance my life a little bit better. So this guy comes in and starts blaming you for what you were doing.
Yeah.
And we were in that stage, we're just doing whatever.
And hopefully the longer we live, the more we get used to that, what to do, I guess.
That's the invitation. That's the invitation. And a lot of people don't understand it or get caught in habits that mean they just numb out, so they don't ever... People are afraid to feel their feelings. The feelings are there as... I probably told you there's rumble strips on the side of the road.
Yeah.
If you hit the rumble strips, it wakes you up.
Yeah.
You're not frightened of them. It's good information. I got distracted. Now I need to reset.
Yeah.
Your feelings are the body's way of saying, what are you paying attention to in your mind? What are you believing? What are you thinking? But in this culture, we're taught to avoid the feelings. They're not safe. They're information. It's a beautiful... One of the psychiatrists I work with calls them love letters from the body, right?
Yeah.
Now, a difficult feeling or a difficult emotion doesn't feel like a love letter.
No.
But it's there to guide you.
It's there to help you, isn't it?
Yes.
And that's the way. Rather than thinking it's an attack, it's a response. It's
information.
A sign.
Yeah. It's the check engine light on your van.
Yeah.
Like when that comes on, it's like, oh
Did you
no.
know mine's been on recently?
No, is it?
Doing my fucking head in there. Been in 3 times.
But if you not ignore that, something's going to
happen. Blow. Yeah.
And that's what we're doing with every time we distract, numb. Obviously, you can't. Every feeling you have, you're not going to.
No.
But if there's a theme, if there's a build-up, the last thing we want to do is be with those feelings and actually think of those feelings like a little kid just saying, just notice me, like acknowledge me, I want to be seen, I want to be heard. And as we come into contact with the feelings you realize that it's actually made of love at the deepest level. So it feels scary when you're away from it. And the closer you get, everything in the system is like, no, don't distract, no, avoid, blame someone else. But then you get with it, not as a technique to get rid of it, but if you can just be with it, it loses its... It's like, you know, the Wizard of Oz, the guy behind the big green curtain.
Yeah.
You know, don't look over here, I'm the Great Oz. And then the dog peels back the curtain and there's this little weedy guy.
Yeah.
So we really need to not be frightened of the initial... Because the parrot doesn't want you to go anywhere near those feelings.
Yeah, so it's just giving out the bad vibes sort of thing.
Yeah, but your owl is guiding you. Come, you know, it's okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's... most of us are distracting ourselves away from actually the information that the system is lovingly giving us.
Like, obviously, going off the energy side of things, and, you know, because I know that's a big thing in what you do, it's also a big thing that a lot of people need to, or would benefit from learning from. What would you say, what are some good information that we could leave with for people to take away that would help them in their... I don't want to try and make this too broad, but non-specific issue. Do you know what I'm trying to say? But using energy. Yeah.
So grounding is a really good thing. And it's not at all sort of woo-woo. It's really physics and, you know, brain psychology, you know, brain neuropsychology as well. So you can use your imagination. So most of us are using the gift of our imagination, like we said before, to upset ourselves about the past or future. And the imagination, really powerful way to relax, to get the nervous system back to calm and to energetically ground. So for example, if so with clients, I will get them to do a quick body relaxation. So
like a meditation style thing.
Like just moving from the top of the body, relaxing, tuning in to the different parts of the body, and then visualize. So everyone's got somewhere in nature that they like to be. You know, most people go to a beach.
We've done this before, haven't we?
Yeah, we've done this before.
Yeah.
So they'll go to a beach or a forest. It doesn't need to be difficult or hard. So just use your imagination. Like it could be that holiday that you loved. So then take yourself to that place in your mind, if you can. Close your eyes. And then use your senses. So the senses here are the key. So first of all, what's the sky doing? What's the water doing? You know, what are colours? So you're really bringing the scene to life.
Feeling it, aren't you?
Yeah. And then what, you know, if say it's the beach, the water, the ebb and flow of the water, you know, there might be a breeze in the trees. So you're really starting to wake the senses up. Taking a nice big deep breath in of that fresh sea air. Now you're bringing the body into the relaxation state, because the long, deep breath in and an even longer deep breath out is giving messages to your nervous system. It's safe. You can calm down. And then, you know, walking on the beach, so you're feeling the sand underneath. And then you can stand somewhere in your imagination and you can visualize. Now, people have different preferences. I like to visualize like roots coming out of your feet.
Yeah.
But some people want to be big and bold and they want to chuck anchors down into the... so whatever floats your boat, right? But for example, let's say it's roots. So you imagine strong tree roots coming out of the soles of your feet, going down into the sand, down through the layers of the earth, right to the core. Just visualize the core of the earth. Now you're going to tap into, imaginally and energetically, so you're just making it up really, but it works energetically. You're visualising this beautiful, balancing, calming earth energy coming up through the roots, into your feet, into your legs, into your torso, into your head, and then visualising them leaving the top of your head and showering back down around the body. So you've got this lovely circuit of energy, right? Then perhaps have a pause while that runs and check out the horizon. Are there any boats there? Like really bring it, you know, I love seals. There's a seal playing. So make it, you know, you might want a reggae band or something on. Like whatever's a cocktail in your hand. Just make it really nice. And then visualise you just gently turning your face to the sun and a beautiful golden ray of light coming down from the sun, coming into the top of your head, the crown of your head, and turning to liquid gold. Now this liquid gold is going to come and calm your mind. It's going to calm the heart area. It's going to calm the nervous system. Now it's coming down your legs, and now it's going down into the earth. And this liquid gold, if it feels right, you can set the intention that anything that's no longer serving you, so a belief or a struggle or a knot of tension somewhere, that it will just gently take that down into the earth and let the earth transmute it, clear it, heal it. Yeah? And so that can take as long or as little. There's a guided one in the book, or on my website, you can have a look. And then what I say to people is to energetically protect themselves. And this is as simple as visualising a beautiful bubble of energy coming out from the ground and surrounding you, setting the intention to be energetically protected. If you feel like you need to be stronger, you can, a triangle is a really strong shape.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and this can just be in the moment, just before you get out of the car to go into a meeting, just spend a minute to energetically centre yourself. And it's amazing. Most of us are walking around just picking up. I have to be careful because I can go in a room and I know exactly what everyone's feeling because I'm a transmuter. So everyone says, "Oh, you're so calm. It's lovely to be around you." Well, yeah, because I'm cleaning your energy up, right? So I have to protect myself. Yeah. And I have to clean my energy. So once you're protected, so you go into your meeting, it was pretty tough or whatever, you come out, you get back in your car, now you just visualise yourself back on the beach and perhaps a nice shower of water coming down on you. Well, you get in the water, have a swim. And now the intention is, let's clear this energy. Let's reset, right? You can get in the shower. You can physically get in the shower at home. But if you're doing it in your imagination, if on the run, and it's just about tuning in. And, I've worked with all sorts of people, veterans and top business people, all sorts, and all of them love this. Because at first I was like, oh, can I really do this with this client? But the ones that you least expect it actually love it, and now they'll get in touch and say, I'm still doing the protection thing. It's really making a difference in my life. I'm like, great.
So how often will they revisit that?
So depends. I would say do it when you wake up in the morning before your feet hit the floor, like with your toothbrush routine, have it as part of your morning routine if you can, and then definitely clear before you go to bed. But if you can, like if you're stuck at a traffic light, if you can tie it to something that happens in your day. Yeah. Or
like a checkpoint.
Like a checkpoint.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. And it's one of these things that it's easy to forget, and that that's fine. But if it occurs to you, then just try it. Kids love it. If you've got young kids, you can work it into it's play for them.
Well, they've got great imaginations.
They've got great imaginations. Like what shape shall we be today? Let's get inside a shape. Some people, instead of being in a shape, they imagine a spot on the floor. So you could have a spot in your gym or in your office, and you stand in that spot, set an intention. Yeah. Just no one needs to know what you're doing.
No.
I'm clearing myself, or protecting myself in sessions, before sessions, during sessions. If it's a really heavy trauma case, then I'm clearing the whole time. No one knows that's happening.
But these sort of things you have to practice, don't you? Like you can't expect them just to be like, it's happened. Yeah. Like you've got to...
Yeah. But it is a really easy, simple... And people say, well, it just feels like I'm making up. Well, yeah, you're just setting the intention. That's how it works.
Yeah.
You know.
You are making it up, but you're making it with good things.
Yeah. And the energy will work because it's intention. You're setting the intention.
But it's just like, and I say it all the time, it's just like that whole, like, if I said to you, don't look behind you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You're like,
yeah.
And you're building up that tension, thinking, shit, there's something behind me. It's like, just look behind you. Do you know what I mean? Same sort of thing, isn't it?
It is.
Whatever you build up is what's going to happen.
Absolutely.
So if you're building up good things, good visualization and feelings, then good will happen.
Yeah. Yeah, you certainly feel better. You'd be on a different frequency energetically.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. Well, thank you very, very much for today.
You're welcome.
I have got a lot out of it, personally, and selfishly I've guided it for, But no, I know loads of people will get so much from this, so I really appreciate it. Yeah. I normally give you a fist pump, but I don't want to give you a fist pump. I want to give you a hand. But no, thank you very much for everything.
You're welcome.
And I'm sure people will see you around. Where can they follow you and everything else?
So on social media, I'm Nicola Jane Drew. My website is afreemind.co.uk.
Yeah.
It's in there, but I can give you a link as well if you want it under.
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
Yeah.
And then we'll put your PDF book in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyone that's watching this right now, tell someone else to watch it as well. And then get the link below, and obviously you can get a PDF of the book.
Yeah, lovely.
No, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.